Testing, 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 testing. Sound check. And we are alive. Okay, we're live and we're alive. And quite honestly, we're chilling. Got things going on that I don't really. Good things that I don't really want to mention just yet. Um, and today's been a research day. It's been a research day. Everything was on halt. I'm like, okay, prep time. Got to be Batman, right? Got to be prepared, right? Preparation is key. Of course, there is such a thing as too much prep. At one point, you just got to lift some heavy ass weight, and there's only so much you can warm up until it's the warm up is a workout. So that is what I've been thinking about. That's what it's been going through my mind, and quite honestly, I've been recommended a book, and I've been reading it, and it talks about categories. Hence, the title and the thumbnail: divisions, finding your own space, becoming a category. Of course, that's just a fancy way of saying finding your niche. But it kind of goes a little bit further to try and justify its existence, and talks about categories as a very specific division of markets, a very, very specific division of markets that you can create. And once created, you can lead. And you become a category of one. And that's an interesting concept. And I appreciate it because it's kind of the true essence of what a thought leader is, right? And it kind of really shits on Gary Vee, which is I find funny because I was one of those people who, in the early days of Gary Vee, was really into what he was saying. So it's fun to see, you know, it's like, okay, I'm past that Gary Vee stuff, past the kind of vagueness of this world that we're in, and it's so it's interesting from that aspect where I kind of understand what it's talking about, and I appreciate it, and I'm grateful that I'm at a point um, mentally where I've learned enough for me to be in this place, and to be in a mental space to be able to take that and not feel like I'm an idiot, which he doesn't necessarily call idiots, but blind consumers. It's like, oh yes, at that time, I was a blind consumer, just taking in until your brain turns mush. Right, just consuming content until your brain turns mush, and it kind of explores the concepts of I'm not finished with the book, but it can kind of goes through the concepts of the levels, the ways to become a category of one, to be a leader of your own niche. That's what that means. Yeah, in a cooler kind of self-justifying way of being able to sell a book, which is funny because that's something it mentions inside the book as well. It's like the same thing, but you've complicated the wording and you've added a few bits in it, and then it's a whole new thing. It's like that scene from The Big Short with Anthony Bourdain. It's not old fish. It's a whole new thing. But I will say it is very interesting, and reading it kind of made me think a lot more about niches. And I've always kind of had this thing about how do you get to a niche, and it's like my assumption was from testing and my thoughts that have kind of developed over the time of the lives that you get there through testing, and eventually you get closer to the truth. You change your argument, you change your offer, and eventually you become specific, and you keep adding, and eventually you land in a direction, and there you go. You found yourself a niche. And in the book, it kind of mentions it in a similar way, but it gives it specific steps of what that testing needs to be. And I found that quite useful because I'm like, oh, okay, let's try this out and combine it with my own ideas to create my own process. And I found that quite interesting. And it's a good book. Hello. And it kind of talks about how to become a category of one, you have to surpass the levels of, blind consumer to active consumer to obvious, um, someone who's, I forgot the word, it begins with a C. Someone who's an obvious something and a non obvious something. Um, I have my laptop right here. I can't just check. It's not like there's a time limit on these things. You can just sit there, zero people. You think about how awkward it is to probably be live to zero people, but it's not really when you think about the fact that when you're recording a video and people are going to watch it later, you're basically pretending to talk to someone anyway. That's what acting is. So, you just pretend like you're talking to someone. It's here somewhere. Okay, there it is. And if I can just find now the page this was on, and connectors. What does it mean by connectors? Oh, just creating connections between ideas. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just creating connections between ideas. So you get an obvious connection, you get a non-obvious connection, and then you kind of find yourself to creating a category through those steps. Um, yeah, and it talks about this thinker's high, where if you're thinking until if you're thinking to the point your brain is hurting, you're probably doing something right. And if you're reading something that makes your brain hurt, you're probably doing something right. It means you're actually learning something, which is good. Learning is good. So, to become a category, you have to start from consumption. The default for most people is just blind consumption, right? It talks about this 1% rule. It's like in any social media, it's like an internet theory or rule or whatever that states that 1%, like 90% of people are consumers, 9% are curators, and 1% are creators. And it's only when you get to that creator aspect that you become a category. You know what I mean? So it's like you start as someone who just consumes mush, right? You just watch entertainment. It doesn't really do anything for you. You don't learn anything. You're not really getting anything useful out of it. It's just blind entertainment. Maybe you're watching TikTok dances, or maybe you're watching that chick Leah something make a face to a song, and it goes viral, right? It doesn't really do anything to help you. It doesn't really do anything to help anyone. It's just, something that clicks in the zeitgeist and people become interested in, and it's just content. It's just entertainment. And you go from a blind consumer to an active consumer, which is, you actively choose what you consume, and at the end of the day, that could be something that's, you're choosing because it's educational, or you're choosing because it's entertaining, but it's okay because you're choosing the fact that you're wasting your time, and that's okay then. So it's okay that you're wasting your time because you're choosing to waste your time, right? But then you get to the second step, which is curation. Instead of just blind consumption, you kind of remix, and it kind of states in the book that you kind of that's the next step. It's the first step of creation is imitation. It's like you imitate, then you create. It talks about Picasso, about how when he first started, painting, when he first started art, he would copy Van Gogh. That was his first art pieces. He would just copy Van Gogh's style, and then 9 years later, he created Cubism, which is his own category. He became a category of his own in his own style, but that all started from remixing Van Gogh's style. And so, it's okay to, remix, repost, whatever, but that doesn't stop there. Um, Once you've remixed, it's like, are you just responding? Are you giving your opinion, or are you adding insight? Because those are two different things. An opinion is just, I think this is cool. I think this is bad. This makes me feel this way. What do you guys think? But insight is combining, uh, making connections that are not obvious, right? Let's say someone creates something, or maybe some new research comes out, and you take that research and you take something else that and you connect those ideas in a way where other people don't really notice them, in a way that other people don't really notice them, and that's insight. So your ability to create insight is the next step. And once you're able to create insight, you're able to create your own category because you have entered creation, right? But at this point, you can't just respond to someone else's thing. You have to create your own lane, right? And that lane can come from adding insight to other people's work, right? It's like if someone does, this was an example in the book. If someone does, let's call it how to uh, how to how to lose 10 pounds of fat. Um, no, I'm creating my own example. Let me just use the one in the book. How to make money online, right? That would be a kind of obvious thing, but then maybe you know you combine it with something like how to make money online as a single mom who has very little time in their day, and it's like, okay, you've become very niche, and you've added insight to someone else's work, and because you've added that insight, you now have your own category because no one else is talking about that. But of course, that's an overused, oversaturated market. So you have to become very specific, very non-obvious, because most people just most people just know a lot of things because of the internet, right? Everything's there all the time. So, it's not really a novel idea. Something novel is something you have to create, and creating is difficult. And it talks about this thinker's high. And you have to think until your brain hurts. And that's the only way things will work. That's the only way you'll able to get to that creation gold. You know what I mean? Uh, I am really sweating, and not just like kind of sweating, but like really sweating. It is hot out here. It's never, I'd like it. I'd like it to be nice, cool sometimes, but Dubai is a special beast. And wow, there was some light pollution in the back because it is. The clouds are very bright and kind of purplish. There's like redness in the sky. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's stirring up trouble. Batman, you've eaten well. If you know Batman, you know him. Yeah, and if you're wondering why I keep rubbing my face, I'm just wiping off sweat. But honestly, it's like I'm sitting in a sauna, right? It's kind of nice, it makes me feel like I'm doing multiple things at once. Welcome to the boiler room. And sweating is good for you. It's good to sweat. Sometimes I'll be sitting in the AC all day and just working, and sweating can be incredibly useful. Detoxifies you. So it's not as hot as a sauna would be, but maybe I get enough sweating in what 30 minutes. Maybe I'm not getting enough heat, but I'm getting sweating. I guess whatever. I also learned, funnily enough, that you can go live from LinkedIn. So maybe when these 100 days are over, I'll go live from LinkedIn because that's where the bulk of my work is now. And I've been experiencing a little bit of writer's block. So I'm happy that I'm reading this book because it's kind of helping me touch base. It's kind of helping me ground my thinking. And because I think I'm going through a little bit of overthinking, right? And it's like you begin to worry about like, oh no, am I actually giving insight or not? I did some really good content that I feel good about, and then now it's like, I don't know how I feel about me doing this, and it's like, is that good? Is it bad? Is it what is it? And you start doubting yourself. But you just follow the steps. This guy, can be a little too self-conscious, and that's a bad thing. It's a bad thing when what you're trying to do is get attention. uh, so but it's human. So what can you do? Just got to do it anyway. That's the thing, right? You might feel like, oh no, I might not make great content, but it's like whatever. Whatever. How else am I going to learn? How else am I going to know that that was a bad idea? How else will I know to avoid that topic? I have to test it. And what if, God forbid, what if I skip on it and that would have been an amazing video and that would have really resonated? So, yeah, that's how I feel about that. And I'm really sweating and I'm really hot, and I'm going to check my phone. Whoa, that is really hot. Okay. I'm going to end it right here before my phone turns off by itself. But yeah, think about categories. Think about converting your brain from mindless consumption to creation. And, I've outlined the steps, and you can do that, right? And it's like, it's nice when the steps are like very nicely outlined. So you should definitely read books because you'll get some amazing ideas. And you know what? Read books that other people are not reading. Don't read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Don't read it. You know, I mean, maybe read like a summary about, or like a Cliff Notes version. You know, read stuff people aren't reading. That's where you get insight. That's my secret. Certain books I will not share that I have read, not finished, because it's like you find a chapter that's interesting and then you read that. I don't have time to read every single page. Find a good chapter and you read it, and it's like if it mentions another chapter in it, then go read that too. It's like if something's connected that you need to read that makes sense. But it's like if you find a good chapter, read it. It's like that'll help you get used to reading too, because it's hard to get into reading, especially if you come from absolutely destroyed dopamine receptors. And yeah, that's what I'm about. That's what I'm thinking. And what else is there? What else is there? What else is there? Not much else. Think about creating, right? And it's like you have to go through those steps, and you might be lucky to not have the only difference you can have. You might not start at mindless consumption. Might be the lucky ones with properly regulated dopamine, or maybe someone set you on a path to creation earlier on in your life. Lucky you. This is just a 0 to 1. 0 to 1 to 1 plus n. And boy, are we having a good time. We're creating. There's nothing greater than creating. It's the only thing that matters. When we create, we inflict our world with our creation. And that can be good or bad, but as long as your intentions are good, let them rip. For the good of your fellow man and woman. Okay, before I've really let it go long enough. It is okay. All right. This has been real. Think about creating. Be good. Do good things. And subscribe, and good things will happen. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. The sweat on my hand is not allowing me to end it. Bye bye.